Hello there folks. This quick video today is going to describe how to create a widget tag that will show a valve in the closed position as you see right here, and then it will transition to a gray and into the green position in the open when it's in the open position. Had a customer in a class recently who asked for this because he's got these valves that have proximity or contacts on one end of the valve, so when it's in closed position they get a valve closed discrete input. When it's transitioning from closed to open, both the contacts are in the open position, and then when it transitions or when it gets to the open position, the other contact on the other side will close, indicating the valve is in the open position. So the customer would like to have some kind of pre-built primitive that he can reuse over and over again with this idea. So I've got here on the screen just a simple page showing the idea. We're going to go now build these so these things kind of become widgets that we can reuse over and over again. I'm going to go over to the left side and click Data Tags on the left side. Notice right now that I don't have any particular widgets in here or any tags in here at all right now. So if I hit the little pull down arrow directly to the right of the word new, you're going to see that you can choose what's called a flag tag. Because these inputs coming from the valves are going to be discrete, they're simply on, off, or contacts, that's going to be what we call a flag tag. If it's just an on-off signal like a light switch or a relay, that's a flag tag for us. So I click there, I get one tag 1. Notice the blue symbol, that's the tag symbol. I'm going to rename this one valve underscore open, for instance. I'm going to go ahead and hit the new button here because Crimson will automatically copy the same type that you just created. So now I get another one, and I'll call this one valve underscore closed. Now if I had the real I/O here connected, I of course would go over here to the word source, and I would go link it to the real discrete input signals coming back from my PLC or my SCADA or whatever the signal's coming from. I don't have that here, so I'm going to leave these all in the make-believe internal tag setting here. So again, notice I've got two tags, valve open, valve closed. I know that when one of these is on, let's say valve open is on, that means I'm in the open position. Obviously closed would be off. I know that when both of these are in the open position, that means I'm in the middle of transitioning from one state to another, and then when I get to the other state, I expect the other one to be closed. I would never see valve open and valve closed both in the on position at the same time, because that would not be possible because of the valve positioning. So I'm going to go over to display pages now on the left. This is my real page I want to play with. I'm going to go ahead and create a new page. So over here, I'll click the new page button right here. And this will be kind of my scratch pad or my template page I'm going to use here. I'm going to rename, or not rename, but I'm going to change the background color of this to be white so you guys can better see my pointer. So I'll right click on anywhere on the screen, come down here where it says fill color and choose white and click OK. Now the primitive I happen to be working with, or not primitive, I should say the symbol, this customer over in the right hand side of Crimson, click on symbols and come down to the category called valves. And in valves, the one I'm happen to be using for this example, I was using this PVC 2A valve. You can click on any of these. I'm going to choose this one. If I click on it one time, you're going to see there's a bunch of pre-built configured colored ones here. So you can choose any of these, but I'm going to do this, guys. I'm going to drag the red one out like so, and then I'm going to drag, maybe I'll drag the gray one out. That'll be my transition look. And then I'm going to drag the green one out as my open position. Okay. Now first and foremost, I've got 3 of these on the screen. I'm going to double click on the gray or the green one here because I want to change it so that the tab is on this side, on the right side, than the left side. So I'll double click on it. I'll go over to the word adjust, and down here where it says mirror horizontal, I'll check on the horizontal, and that'll move that tab over to the other side. Click OK and click OK again, and that way it visually looks a little more like it's going to the right than the left side. Now the gray one in the middle, you could leave it like that if you want to. I was kind of thinking that I'd try to get rid of this finger, or this the handle if you will, So I'm going to take my mouse, and you may or may not know this, but in Crimson, if you just roll your mouse in a little bit, you can actually zoom in on the screen. You can always come up here, and if you're using the, as I call it, the booger pad, you can click up here on the zoom mode and click in and out as well. Now I'm going to make this a little bit, I'm going to fake this a little bit. I'm going to go cover this section up here. So I'm going to go over to the right side of Crimson and go into primitives on the right side. And I'm going to go into the core primitives on top. And in core primitives, I'm just going to click on, for instance, the rounded rectangle. I'm going to use any of these. It doesn't matter which one. I'll grab one of these because I'm going to change the colors. So I'm going to drag one of these guys out like this. I'm going to shrink it down quite a bit because my goal is to put it like this to kind of cover this thing up. So I'll roll in just a little more. I don't have to look perfect, but I'll roll in just a little bit. And what I want this to do is I want to fill it with white, and then I'm going to group it together to make this be all one picture. So I'm going to double click on this thing, and I'll say, you know what? I want this to fill with the color of white. I notice the edge is white as well. I don't really actually have to have an edge. I'll do none on that. And now I can see, I'm just kind of covering. I'm cheating a little bit here. I'm just covering up that thumb, if you will. I probably could go in and copy this and make it real pretty, but this is good enough for our example. Alright, once I got that done, I'm going to take both of these, and notice what I do. I'll take my mouse and I go ahead and encapsulate both of those items, and then this button in the bottom lower left hand corner of the little pop-up is the group button. That groups this guy together. Okay. Once I get that together, I'm going to do one more step. I'm going to basically take all three of these. No, I won't do that. I'm going to leave it like this. I'll leave it separate like this for now. I'm going to leave it separate like this. I'll show you why. Alright, so here's the skinny. I want this one to show up when the valve is closed. I want this to show up when the valve is in transition, meaning that the valve open and valve closed are zero state. They're not in either. And then I want this one to show up when the valve open is on. So I'm going to start on the red one. I'm going to double click on the red one. And what I'm picking on here is, let's see here, is this section right here on your screen, right here, where it says visible state. That's where we're going to use that tag name. We only want this thing to show up when the valve is closed. So I'm going to go over to the right side and click data tags on the right side, and I'm going to drag the valve closed out here like this. Just simply drag the valve closed sensor down here into the visible state. That takes care of that one. That means this thing will only show up when valve closed equals 1. I'll click OK. Let's go to the valve open and do the same thing on it. So double click on the green one. Go over to the right side, click data tags on the right side, and take the tag called valve open and drag and drop it out here into the visible state once again. And then click OK on it as well. Okay. Now the middle guy, he's a little bit different. The only time I want the middle one to show up, or the gray one, is when both valve open and valve closed do not equal 1, or when they equal 0. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on this guy. This one's a little different. I'm going to make this kind of decision. Right here to the right of this thing, there's an edit button here. If you click edit, it brings up a little expression editor here. And then if I go to data tags on the right, the only time I want this to show up is when the valve open is not on. So what I can do is I can drag this out like this, but I want the opposite of this. So if I want the opposite, put your mouse right in the front of that and do the shift and the apostrophe. That's the not symbol, the valve, that's the not symbol. And then I'll do a space, the ampersand sign, which means the and then I'll take the valve closed and I'll drag it out here like this. And once again, I'll put my mouse right before there and I'll do the apostrophe there. So I've got that. So this is the not of that with the not of this. Click OK. That means that this will only show up when both of these are in the off position. Click OK. Now I always like to test things, so I'm going to come out here, I'll click away. And for testing purposes, the way I do the testing is I'll go over to the right side and I'll click on data tags on the right side. Zoom out here a little bit. And I'll take both of these guys and I'll just drag it on the screen like so. This is just for testing. And I want to make these be data entry, so I'll click here and I'll click on the little jalapeno button That's the little data entry, and then I'll click on this one, and this little button here is the data entry. And then to make this easier for us to see, I'm going to take these three and move it down here. And remember, in our software, whatever page is on top is the one that loads by default. So I'm going to take this page 1 template and I'll drag and drop it up above here like so. And then I'm going to use the emulator. So this button right here is the emulator. So if I go ahead and download, alrighty, and you can kind of see on the screen. Now notice this is kind of twisted because I'm running the emulator, so the graphics doesn't show up completely in the emulator correctly. But if I click here on Valve Open and turn this on, by clicking there and on, notice it goes to the green state. Perfect, that means the valve's open. I'll go ahead and close that. We're back to transition. And then if I go to valve closed, which means we transitioned over there, there's the red state. Perfect. I'll go ahead and turn that off again, and you can see it back to the gray here. And just hit the escape key will close the emulator if you're using that. So I've just tested our logic. Everything looks to be correct with these three guys. It seems to work fine. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take these guys and we're going to put them together, group them together, and we're going to make it a widget that we can reuse over and over again. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this guy and I'll kind of place it directly on top of here as close as possible. I'll do the same with this one as well. I'm stacking all three of them like so. Trying to get them to line up. There we go. It's pretty close. Alright. So once I got all three of them stacked on top of each other like that, I'll take my mouse and I'm going to go ahead and encapsulate all of them like that again. And once again I'm going to group them together. That kind of keeps their placement in line. So that button there does the group. You can also right click on this and you can do the group function there as well. It's ungrouped now that I just did it, but right click and go to group. I got to highlight them. Hold on. Highlight them all and then right click and go to group. That puts them all together. Once you get all that grouped, then I want you to right click on the whole conglomeration, and the fourth thing from the bottom, hold on a second here guys, I don't know if that's going to show up on your screen. Let me move this up here a little bit like this. Right click here, and the fourth thing from the bottom is Widget Tags. See the word Widget Tags right here? If you click on the word Widget Tags, you're now going to define this thing as a widget. Well, this widget really only has two variables that it works with, valve open and valve closed. So where it says definition right here, click the edit button, and up here where it says extent, it says count. I'm going to hit the edit button here, and I'm going to change that from 0 to 2, put a number 2 in there and hit OK. So what you're doing right now is you're defining widget tags from that graphic that eventually will be linked to real tags. However, if you make the name of them right in here the same as what's over here, it makes it easier when you go to link it to drop it on top of there. So right here, this first column, I'm going to type the word valve underscore open, enter, and then the next one down below I will type valve underscore closed, enter. The description column is nothing more than just a text box, so you could say valve in open position, enter, and this one here I could put in here valve in closed position, enter. Alrighty. Okay, then as far as the data types goes, if you hit the pull down here, these are both going to be just an integer. They're coming from, even though they're a flag type, they're an integer value. They're like a penny. If you flip a penny, it's heads or tails. It's still only worth 1 cent, but it is a penny. It's a coin. If you take a quarter, you flip a quarter, it's a heads or tails, but it's worth 25 times. So it's still a coin, just like an integer. A flag is an integer. Then over here, the category for flags, if you hit the edit button to the right of there, these are both going to be just a tag state. They're nothing that we're going to turn on from out of here, so they're just going to be a tag state. Okay. Now the last part of this is this folder binding section. We're going to go ahead and turn this on because we eventually might have folders of valve 1, valve 2, valve 3, and so forth. So I'm going to turn on the folder binding, which will allow me to grab a folder of tags and drag them out here. And then I'll click the OK button. Notice right now it says valve in whatever position, that's that text we just typed in, and I'll click OK once again. Alright, so there is our valve, if you will. Now what we want to do is we need to save this widget so we can reuse it over and over again. So since it's all highlighted right now, meaning I've got the red or the red circle around, a red box around it, go to the Organize pull-down menu and come down to this word Save Widget. Organize pull-down menu and choose Save Widget. Once you select Save Widget, notice Crimson will put it in a default directory. Please allow it to save in that directory because that's where Crimson's looking for widgets. And I'm going to call this one my_valve, for instance. And I'm going to save it in the default location, and I'll hit enter. Once I save it in that location, if I go over to the right and go to primitives on the right side, go to the home directory of your primitives, go to the home directory up on top, and then take your little slider bar down. You're going to see there's going to be a directory called widgets. And if you already followed my stoplight one, there's the stoplight widget. Here's my valve widget, and if I just drag that guy on the screen like so, it should look roughly the same as this one. Matter of fact, I'll delete the other one I just did, and I'll use this one here. Now once I get that on the screen, let's go ahead and we need to link this to our widget tags. So we have two options of doing that. One is to right click and go to well, you can actually go to Properties and Bind. Actually, since we did the folder binding, we're going to go over to the go over to the left side, click Data Tags on the left side. We've got these tags right now that are hanging out at the root menu. They're not part of a directory. So I'm going to create a folder right here. I'm going to create a folder right here. And I'm going to call this folder Valves. And then I'm going to create another subfolder there called Valve1. There's Valve1. And I'm just going to take these tags and drag and drop them into the Valve1. Now keep in mind when you do this, you got to be able to drop right on the folder, or once you get something in there in between the two. You notice they're actually in the folder because if you collapse the tree, they disappear. So I put both those tags in Valve1 location. If I had another tag now, I can right click and simply do copy on that folder, and then right click and paste, and now I get Valve2 and so forth. Okay? So here's where it really gets cool. I'll go back to display pages. Here's this guy right here. I'll drag it out again just so you guys can see. Let's do this. Let's move this one down here. This guy right here like this. I'm going to go over to data tags on the right side, and I'll drag that guy out like that, and I'll drag this guy out like this. I want to link this guy to the tags from that guy and this guy from these tags. So all I got to do is right click on the first one, the one on the left, and go to Bind Widget. It brings up the target symbol. And I simply merely got to take the Valve1 directory, take the whole directory, not the individual tags, take the whole directory and drag and drop it right over the target here, and boom. Now it's linked, and I'll do the same on this one here. Go Bind Widget. I'll take Valve2, drag and drop it here, and now it should be good. And then I need to make these guys be data entry for us to test this. So let me download this to the emulator and let's see what happens here. Okay, again, notice the picture because of the emulator. So if I turn on the first one to the closed position, notice how it goes to red, and if I go over to the valve open on the other one, it should go to green. If I turn this one off and this one goes to open as well, you'll see it works as well correctly. Alright, now we want to actually use these in our screen. So I'll click the escape button to close the emulator. I'll go back to my main page. Earlier, these here were just pictures. That's all they were, so I will just delete that, and I'll delete this one here as well. And all I have to do is go over to primitives on the right side and simply take my valve out like so and place it there, and place this one right where the other one was like so. This one's not on right all the way. Oops. Yeah, it's not lined up. That's all right. And then all you gotta do is right click and go to Bind Widget and grab your Valve1 tags for that guy. And then I'll right click on this one and I'll do Bind Widget on this one as well. And I'll grab Valve2 tags right there. And there's my graphic. And again, if I want to test, I can just simply, I'll just go over here. And I'll copy these two guys over. I'll paste it up here. Whoops. paste again here. And I'll try to grab this whole conglomeration like that. There we go. And if I go ahead and download it, let's see what happens. I want to move this page up to the top. Alright, once again I'm running the emulator mode, so that's why the graphics look a little strange. But if I turn this one on, notice valve is closed there, and this one here I would put in the open position. There it is, green. And if I was to go to this one, turn off the valve closed, and turn on valve open here, you can see it's green. So that's how you can make a kind of a two-state widget that you can reuse over and over again. Pretty neat little tool. Anyway, thanks a lot and have a great day. Hope it worked out well. Thanks.